What if beyond the skies of Minecraft you could explore space, adventuring the planets of several solar systems, building space stations, encountering aliens, perhaps the large field of the moon, the red planet of Mars, and much more planets. With each planet comes various habits, different temperatures, food, mobs, and structures. We'll be spending the first few days on Earth collecting metal with quarries, hunting food, and constructing gear to build myself a rocket. My goal for these 100 days is to build a mega space station on Earth and go to the moon and beat the moon boss in the moon dungeon to unlock a tier 2 rocket schematic to go to different planets like Mars. If this video hits 200 likes, I will play another 200 days in this world exploring more planets, more bosses, and building even bigger bases and space stations. Day 1, and here we go. We start off in this beautiful little lake in Earth, collecting the simple materials, and I made myself some basic tools like some wooden tools. Right off the bat, I found a village. On my way there, mined some cobblestone and coal. As soon as I arrived at the village, of course I went straight for the blacksmith. There was some bread and an apple as loot, so it was not the best loot, but I took the chest because I needed all the help I could get. I upgraded my tools to stone tools and went back to steal the 2 furnaces from the blacksmith, and then I just started to do some exploring. While I was looking around, I saw a huge forest, and that was the redwood forest. There's some redwood trees that drops a lot and lots of wood. As you can see, one tree gives like 3 stacks, so that was plenty of wood for me at the start, so that was a really lucky find. As you know, survival in this mod pack is a lot harder and a lot more realistic, therefore I was getting thirsty, so I just had to drink some river water, which was not the best because it does give you thirst, but it was all I had. Wool is a very valuable crafting recipe, and it is quite hard to get in normal Minecraft, so I had all these sheep lying around in the village that I need to protect because wool is going to be used to craft things like aluminum wires and such, so I needed to do something with these sheep. Night was falling. I didn't want to kill the sheep, so I had to shear them. I didn't have any iron, so I went out on a little bit of a mining journey, and that was my first encounter with copper. Copper is a very valuable item used to create machineries and much more things in this mod pack, so I decided to just grab as much as I can, grab the iron, and leave as fast as possible. The zombies were attacking the villagers, so I decided to be the hero of the village and save a few villagers, and after all that adventure, finally made myself a bed. Day 2 didn't start off the best, as a showdown started between me and a baby zombie. Then, a camouflage creeper tried to attack me, but my reflexes were too good for it. The village wall came in clutch because it was the only water source actually near me, and it was preventing me from dying from thirst. Then, I made an animal pen in the back of the village to keep my sheep safe and stored, but I needed myself some string to make myself a rainmaker which will help me collect water, so I went out and I faced myself a horde of mobs. I barely survived, made it back to my house, and I had to take a breather because I almost just died. Day 3 didn't start off different to day 2. A skeleton attacked me right outside my house. I managed to escape it. Then I made myself a rainmaker which will be used to collect some good water near me because I needed another source of water because I couldn't rely on the water well anymore. Hunger and thirst was seriously starting to be a problem for me. Hunger was quite easy to solve. I went out, killed a bunch of pigs that I saw, and then made myself a bunch of cooked pork chop, and that was my hunger problem solved for at least a couple of days. But for my water thirst problem, I had to go out and find a bunch of cows. Now, why I was doing this was because I needed to make myself a canteen, which is basically a water bottle that allowed me to filter water, because filtered water is obviously better than non-filtered water. It gives you more thirst and it helps with your saturation for thirst. Now, I went out for a long time trying to find cows on a long boat journey. It was thousands of blocks. Okay, not thousands, but hundreds of blocks, and it was quite a journey. I didn't find cows, but on my way back, I was lucky and I did find some cows. You couldn't describe my happiness. I got myself some leather and I went back to my village. I used 6 pieces of leather to make myself a canteen, and now I could filter water. But in order to filter water, you need an actual filter. And in order to make that, you need paper and charcoal. You can only use charcoal, not coal. So I made myself a filter. It's only one time use, so I did that. And I used that to filter water, and I got myself a good drink. Now my thirst problem was solved, and now I could constantly filter water using this canteen. Later on, I also found a ravine that had a lot of the materials that I wanted, like tin, copper, and iron. So I was thinking I was going to go down there on a later date, but I also decided while I was there, I just went down and grabbed a few things that I could, a bunch of iron and copper that I could, but another day I decided that I will come back to mine all of this. A lot of time is going to be spent on Earth because I need to build myself a space station and the actual rocket to go to space. So I decided to at least start planning out my base, and I thought this area was perfect. I want to build the base underground in this little lake, and I want to make the floor of the lake as a glass and the ceiling of my base. So I decided to dig down underwater under all the mud, found some cool new blocks, mud, I don't know what it's used for, but I decided to just keep it, and I decided to start just planning out the floor plan. So I want to have a middle room where we're gonna have the space station, or the station where we're gonna build our rocket, which is going to be left empty, and I want to make it a little bit spacious, and I want to have two ways going on the sides. One way is going to have my animal panel where I store my sheep and cows, because we're going to be constantly breeding them, because leather and wool is super valuable in this mod pack. And on the other side we have a little bit of a storage area and an enchanting area perhaps in the future, because we do need a lot of space for those things. And keep in mind, we need to put a coal generator which is going to produce electricity. We're going to need some space for that, because we're going to need those to make some waffles, some circuits, and all the good stuff. So I had to leave some space for those. Day 5 was a mining day. I entered the ravine in fashionable style and then went to town mining all the resources I can see. Now a mining day is going to be pretty common in our 100 days, because we are going to be needing a lot of metal to build our rocket. So this was just the first day of money to come. All these resources are going to be invested back into a circuit fabricator and a coal generator. I just needed some copper and iron for a coal generator, and tin for circuit fabricator. These things are going to generate electricity and going to make myself some waffles. Day 6 and 7 was a pretty busy day. I made myself full iron armor, expanded my base, and then I started moving things over from my village into this little base, and that took me 2 days. The next day I made myself my first coal generator, which was my first machinery, and as you can see, using these wires I can connect the coal generator to many things to provide electricity. And I still needed a circuit fabricator so that I could start making myself some waffles, and if you want to make waffles you also need diamonds, so I needed to make myself a strip mine. So I started to strip mine downwards, and I wanted to start getting some diamonds. Day 8 and 9 was mainly spent in my strip mine, and that was where I got my first encounter with oil. Oil is actually pretty common in desert biomes, but it is pretty rare in any other biome, so I decided to make myself a bunch of buckets and grab as much as I possibly can on my way down to the strip mine, and then I just continued to find diamonds. But then I found silicon. Now I was really excited because silicon is actually just as rare as diamond, and it is used to run the circuit fabricator to make advanced waffles or even simple ones. So I just grabbed a lot of it and I was really excited. And then also I found my first diamond. So these few days were actually really good days. I collected the diamonds to start making myself my diamond pickaxe. That was exactly what I did on day 10. Made myself my first diamond pickaxe on the world, went back down to the strip mine and continued to get some silicon and also some obsidian, and I accidentally found some diamonds, and I even found more diamonds. Now that was a lot of diamonds. I decided to save them because I want to use fortune on them. So I just went back up, and then on the way back up to my base I found a huge ravine that I was gonna explore later on. Day 11 started as I made myself an enchanting station in my house, and I checked out what enchantments I could get on my diamond pickaxe, and of course to my luck it wasn't fortune guaranteed, but we still had a chance. Later on in the day I made myself a circuit fabricator which was used to make waffles for advanced machineries, and I connected it to my coal generator to give it power. For the rest of the day, I continued to work on my base, decorate it a little bit more because it wasn't looking the best. For the next few days, I decided to focus on my base, decorate it a little bit more because it was starting to look really ugly. Now one problem I had was I didn't have any oak around me, so I had to travel quite a long way to find myself some oak trees and decided to get some saplings along the way. After adding some proper nice floors and walls to my base, and then also making myself a little bit of a farm outside, and also finally putting that glass roof I was talking to you about, my base was looking pretty good in the dark. And again, day 17 to 18 was a little bit of a mining day, so nothing really special happened. The next 2 days were packed. I installed the Buildcraft mod, which I did originally try to install, had some errors, but now it was officially working, which means the old oil in the game was removed from the old mod and the new oil from the Buildcraft is now involved, which means my oil that I had collected is now gone, but there was no new oil in the overworld, which is not underground anymore. It's going to be above ground, and it wasn't too rare, so hopefully I can find it soon. With the addition of Buildcraft, I could finally get myself a quarry to stop having these mining days, because this was going to be automatically mining some stuff for me. Now, of course, if you want something as big as a quarry, it's going to be expensive, so I started to research how to make some quarry. I was going to need some combustion engines, a lot of redstone, even some diamonds. So I just started to research and see what I needed. I enchanted my diamond pickaxe, and of course I didn't get fortune, but the next pickaxe was guaranteed fortune, so I decided to get myself some XP to get that fortune 3 pickaxe. The whole of day 22 was spent as I gathered resources for the quarry, and then also I ended the day with fortune 3, went down, mined all the diamonds, which left me with a total of 37 diamonds to my possession at the end of the day. The next day I was ready. I had all the resources I need for a quarry and I was pretty excited. I set it up, it needed fuel and water, so I just put in the water and I tried to put coal as fuel, but it didn't work. So I'm guessing it needed fuel, which I have none of. And of course for the next 2 days I went around to find oil. Oil was quite important because not only do I need it for the quarry, I'm going to also need it for my rocket. So this was quite a crucial stage. I did find the oil pretty far off near another village, which was pretty good. I even tested it if I could get infinite oil like the infinite water trick, and of course it didn't work. So I had to spend all day transporting the oil from there to my base using tons and tons of buckets. This meant the next day I could officially start the quarry. It is up and running, and as you can see we have even got ourselves some materials, and I was really happy about this. I had to constantly supply it with water to make it faster, but that is much better than me having these mining days. The next thing I did was I started to research how to make a backpack. Now I don't know why I didn't make this earlier because this would have been really good for that oil transportation, but hey, it's better late than never. Transporting all this oil made me realize I do really need a horse, and looking around there wasn't any, so hopefully I can find it very soon. The next day I made my first basic waffle, which I was pretty excited for. I used a diamond, 2 silicon, 1 redstone dust, and 1 redstone torch. Day 28, I made myself my first advanced waffle this time for my rocket station, and I also made myself a compressor to start making steel and just other compressed metal in general to make myself a rocket. Specifically, I needed a NASA workbench to actually construct the rocket on, so I started researching how to make that and where I wanted to put it. And also I checked out my quarry later on, and there were some decent things, but not really a lot of good stuff at the moment. Day 29, I didn't do much, just some normal chores around collecting metal and some materials. Day 30 didn't start off very good. My quarry broke, it wasn't mining any more blocks, and I was really confused. I didn't know what the problem was, but it turned out it just needed water, so that was pretty simple. I also made myself a NASA workbench, which looked pretty cool, and it was huge, so I popped it right at the middle of my base to be the next focal point. And I also researched what I would need to make myself a rocket, which turned out to be 4 fins, 1 engine, 8 heavy duty plates, and 1 cone. And all these engine, fins, and cones are also made by heavy duty plates, so that was the main material that I needed. The next day, I expanded the storage for my quarry. It was getting quite full. I did not expect it to get quite full, but what was I expecting? The quarry is doing some work, so I extended it to 2 more double chests, and the quarry was getting pretty deep. Day 33. I remember this day. This day was my first death in this world. I fell down the quarry hole by accident. So in order to get my stuff back, I tried to MOG water bucket down the quarry hole so many times. I failed so many times and died so much more. And I finally did. Well, I was actually stuck down the quarry hole without any more materials when I finally MOG'd down, because all my resources were actually picked up by the quarry and transported to the chest. So I didn't know what to do. So what I did was I did this cool water trick with a water bucket, keep placing water to make myself a water pillar, and finally got out of the quarry. Day 34, I moved my quarry because my old spot was pretty much complete. The quarry has reached bedrock, and I looked at the things I got, and I didn't get any diamonds or really a lot of resources, so I guess I picked out pretty bad spots. So hopefully the next spot I pick for this quarry is a good spot. The whole of day 35 was basically spent as I expanded my base for hopefully a new storage system area. Day 36 to 38, I went on a little bit of a mining session. I knew I wouldn't do that, but the quarry didn't get me enough iron, so I went down a little bit, and to my luck I found some more diamonds. But when I was going to mine the diamonds, I realized that my fortune pick and actually my wafers despawned when I died because I forgot to pick them back up. So that was such a bummer. I was pretty sad, but hopefully I can get another fortune pick soon. So to cheer myself, I made myself another compressor because one compressor could not handle all the metal making I was doing, so I made myself another one. The next day I finally made myself a backpack. I don't know how many days it took, but we are finally here, and it actually looked quite cool, and we could store quite a significant amount of materials in it. Day 40 was going to be a day we're not gonna forget, because after all that metal making and constructing, we have finally made ourselves a rocket. We have finally got a rocket, and as you can see, it is quite big. We're going to still need a little bit more to go to space, but we are quite a good way there. And I also made myself some heavy duty armor, which was another type of armor added into the game, and I thought just it looked pretty cool. The next day was my first encounter with quicksand, and boy oh boy, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get out. I was just getting sunk in. I didn't know if I was gonna die or not, so I just started to use my bucket, my water, everything I could to build around it. But at the end, I did manage to get out, and when I did, I went back home. I made myself some launch pads to put my rocket on, and I started to research some oxygen materials, because I'm gonna be needing machines that help me produce and distribute oxygen in the moon. The next day, I started to make myself space gear that I was going to need to go to the moon, and it turned out I needed an oxygen mask and an oxygen gear, which was pretty simple. It was just for me to continue using oxygen in other planets, and also I needed a parachute because I was gonna need to land on the planet when I come back to Earth, so I needed that or else I was gonna die. And I also needed a frequency modulator, which I later found out it was used to communicate with alien villagers on other planets. Day 43, just something funny happened while I was playing, and I was trying to fight an Enderman, and I was really struggling. My hearts were low. I didn't know what to do, and it just randomly started raining. The Enderman had no choice but to just run away from me, and it was quite hilarious. Moving on, I did something more productive, and I enchanted my diamond pickaxe, and I got myself another fortune 3 pick. Finally, I got a diamond pick, and I was quite excited. The next morning, I took my diamond pickaxe and I went down the mines to get myself all the diamonds that I needed, and unfortunately, I also died while I was doing a little bit of a mining trip, but I managed to collect myself, so it was no big deal. The next thing on my list was to make a refinery, which is going to be used to load canisters with oil, which later on is going to be used by a fuel loader again to actually load the rockets. These are quite a lot of steps, but I did manage to get everything. And also, I made myself full heavy duty armor, which definitely I'm not the biggest fan of. It looks weird, but that is something that I thought we were going to need to go to space. On day 45, I was traveling through deserts back and forth a lot because I was getting the oil from where it spawned to back into my base over and over again, and this was where I first almost died from hyperthermia. At first, the body temperature wasn't too much of a bother, but then traveling through deserts made me realize that I really needed to jump in the pool. In the evening, I filled the canister, and I wanted to take a minute to actually appreciate the cool particle effects in Galacticraft. There are some really cool particle effects from all the blocks in Galacticraft. The next day, I went to see how my quarry was doing, and I saw that the quarry actually missed out a lot of iron on the sides, and I actually really needed iron, so I just went down and then mined all the iron around the quarry. Day 47, I finally made myself a diamond sword because I have no idea what kind of threats I'll be facing in the moon, and I'm going to be needing all the help I can get. And also, all the gear that I needed to go to space was done. I made myself my oxygen gear, my frequency modulator, which definitely looks super cool. I mean, look at this in the back. It is looking amazing. And I also needed some oxygen and a fuel loader. Day 48, I basically spent the whole day making oxygen related stuff, starting with the oxygen collector and the oxygen compressor, which I was going to need to fill my oxygen tank. And in order to craft the oxygen tank, we needed specifically red wool, which I thought was really weird. So I had to go out, find some red dye to dye my white wool red in order to craft the heavy oxygen tank. And on day 49, that was exactly what I did. I made myself some oxygen tanks, and how oxygen is gathered is basically I take the oxygen collector and the oxygen compressor, and I put them side by side near some leaves because that's obviously where oxygen is most concentrated. And as usual, I connect them to a coal generator or some sort of energy generator, and then they start getting powered on, and the oxygen collector collects oxygen, and the compressor actually compresses the oxygen that is collected from the oxygen collector into the heavy oxygen tank. Now that was quite a lot of steps, so I hope you're all caught up. For the next few days, I loaded all the fuel onto the rocket, and I started collecting all the things that I want to bring with me to the moon that I was going to put in the rocket. So I had to think of food, materials, and etc. for the moon. Now this is going to be quite a short trip. We're going there just to see what the moon is like, set up a little bit of a base, and we are going to be coming back to Earth. So I didn't grab too much, but I did fill up all the storage system as much as I possibly could. Looking back at it, I did not need to bring all this stuff. I also brought all my ores, blocks, water, oil, so much stuff. I really did not need to bring that much. It was not going to be that long of a trip, but hey, I did that. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but now that all our stuff was packed, we are officially ready, and we have launched, and we are off to space for the first time in this world. And as you can see, we have quite a lot of options to go to in the future. We have a lot of planets, a lot of moons. As you can see, this is the Milky Way Galaxy. This is our current galaxy. Also, we also have another galaxy added, and that is going to be another more planets, more mobs, more insane stuff. But at the moment, we were going to just go to the moon. Also, as you can see, there's a little space station going around Earth that you can actually build on. You can build a cool space station on space, and you can really expand as much as you possibly can, which is also another thing I wanted to do, but that was going to be for the future. As soon as I landed, there was actually a village really nearby, so I went and checked out the alien villagers for the first time, and they all had good basic traits like oxygen, fuel, oil, and etc. But the one problem was all of them had the same trait, which was kind of a bummer. And another thing in space that was kind of weird is you couldn't really tell the difference between day and night because it is just dark. I guess you'll have to just find out by looking at the rotation of the sun. And of course, the gravitational pull on the moon is 4 times weaker than Earth, and that is completely different. Therefore, I could jump 4 times as many blocks. So I could jump 4 blocks in the moon, which is very useful. Now, there were 2 problems that I faced in space: oxygen and sleeping. Sleeping is complicated. You need some sort of chamber. You need to make some sort of chamber to sleep to prevent your oxygen from running out. So that was something I have to deal with in the future. But oxygen running out is something I have to deal with now because this is a problem. My oxygen tank is already running out fast and I didn't know what to do. And it turned out the next day it wasn't that big of a problem because I managed to solve it by just building the oxygen setup that I built on Earth near some leaves in the village using the compressor and the collector, and I had a coal generator. So as long as I was feeding coal into this, I had oxygen and it was going to be keep filling my oxygen tanks. Now I know this is not the most sustainable or renewable source, so I started to research some solar energy, which was definitely not cheap, but it is going to be coming in really handy. And while checking out the surrounding, I also saw some meteorites that just randomly comes into the moon, just smashing through. They're basically moon creepers, and you get this basically meteor metal, raw meteor metal, which I had no idea what to use for, but I collected as much as possible because meteors are quite rare, even though they are quite out of nowhere, just like your daily creeper. And also the next thing I set up was a quarry. It was pretty simple. On day 55, I started to decorate each of the domes in the village. My plan with this base in the moon is to have these kind of different domes serving different purposes and having glass chambers linked and having oxygen ventilations and all the good stuff. I want to have some sort of technology room and then also fuel room, a storage room, and etc. And also I started to research solar panels, which is kind of expensive but also not really expensive because if you're looking, this is basically infinite energy, so I definitely have to make some. And I also moved my oxygen supplying setup along with the leaves into one of the domes, which I call the fuel room. Day 56 didn't start off too good because the quarry ran out of fuel and there is no source of fuel on the moon, so I will have to go back to Earth to get more fuel. So the quarry was just something I had to ignore. I had to make biofuel in the future, but that is just something we're going to be ignoring at the moment because we're moving on to the advanced solar panel, which was the one that I was going to make. And I started making all the components that I needed, like the advanced wafers and more expensive items like the thicker aluminum wire. I don't know what it's called specifically, and also the steel around the crafting recipe. Now, essentially, the difference between an advanced solar panel and a normal solar panel, which is cheaper to make, but I went with the advanced solar panel, is because the advanced solar panel is much more flexible. The panel actually follows the sun, so that means you're going to be getting energy all day, whereas the normal solar panel, the panel is just going to be stationary, and if the sun is in position you'll get energy, but if it's not, you're not going to get energy. So I decided the extra materials that we're going to be used to make the advanced solar panel was worth it. And along with the solar panel, of course, we're going to need some sort of energy storage because this was going to be making plenty of energy and we need to store it. So I made some sort of energy storage module and I connected the wires to all the machine from the storage, which meant now I officially have unlimited oxygen and energy on the moon. We're doing pretty good. The next day, I found out that torch didn't work in space. Now, I felt quite dumb because it was quite obvious there's no oxygen, so I guess torch couldn't work. And in space, the villagers used some sort of glowstone torch, so I needed to make that. The next time I come to the moon, I needed glowstone, so I need to keep that in mind. Now, what I did was I basically took the glowstone and I went to do some strip mining. So I just hold the glowstone in my offhand and I use it as a light source. Now, this was fine because it didn't really bother me too much. But but in the future we definitely have to keep it in mind because space has mobs, and even the mobs in space, they have these little oxygen tanks, which I thought was super cute and funny. All the mobs in space have these little oxygen tanks because they need oxygen too, just like the torch. And the next day we return to Earth. Yep, our space journey is not over. Of course it's not. It's clearly not over. We're going to be going back from Earth to the moon and other planets again and again. We're going to do it again even in this world. But for now, for these days, I'm going to be coming back to Earth collecting some materials. Now, some of the struggles that I found was the torch. Definitely was a struggle. There was no fuel for the quarry, and I also didn't have some iron. I didn't have enough iron. So that was all the things I wanted to focus on in the world. On day 59, I returned to my beautiful base and I started thinking about massive expansion. I want to leave this base because this was just a starter base, and I want to start building myself my mega base, my space station, space center kind of thing. We're gonna have an area for the rocket, a rocket to launch. We're gonna have area to put our machines like oxygen fueling stations, and we're gonna have waffle makers and all the solar panels and etc. etc. I want to have storage systems. I want to have my bedroom, my farms. I want to automatically produce iron, food, all the good stuff. This is basically going to be everything that I need that I can just grab from my space station in order to go to the moon back and from, and also other planets and stuff. And for the moment, that was all just an idea that I thought of that I want to build. But for that actual day, all I did in Minecraft was I basically just moved things all day to my base. And the moving didn't stop for the next few days too. All I did was just moving. I had nothing else to do. There was just so much stuff that I packed into space unnecessarily. I just had to put that back, all the back in my chest. Now that all the moving was done, I spent a good chunk of time just setting everything back up. I set up the quarry. I collected more oil for the quarry because, as you know, I was running out of that. And I just spent the rest of the time mining for iron and more things. Day 67, I enchanted my diamond sword and I got pretty decent enchantments. They were not the best, but they were definitely better than what I was getting on my pickaxes for quite some time. And also later on the day, I started to work on my mega base space station. I still don't know what I want to call it. Day 68 didn't start off too well. I accidentally opened my sheep farm's fence and all the sheep went out. Well, not all, but most of it. So my starter base was filled with sheep, but I just decided to ignore it and started work on my mega base again. I filled the floor with polished andesite, which I thought looked pretty cool, and I also set up a temporary coal generator inside of it to at least power all the other machines for now, before we set up the solar panel. For the next 2 days, I swapped out the coal generator for solar energy and I connected all the wires to the machines just like how I did it on the moon. So now we have unlimited energy once again, which was pretty good. And also I set up a small storage system on the side and found out the hard way that you can only place chests side by side if you have a trapdoor and a chest side by side. You can have a chest and a chest, which was really weird, so I just had to leave a space. I'm not making a trapdoor just to place it side by side. You know what I mean. Day 71 to 74, I enchanted some leggings, my heavy duty leggings, and I got unbreaking and fire protection. All I wanted was the unbreaking. The fire protection is really useless, but I'll take it anyways. And also, I went back to work on the base and I finished out the exterior for my base / space station. I added this kind of tunnel on the side, as you can see. This tunnel was going to lead to my main base things like a farm, storage system, bigger storage systems, and quarries and all the good stuff. And I had the large area for my machines, as you saw. And in the front, I want a little porch for me to launch the rocket. Day 75, I found out that I was being really unsustainable by using all the furnaces in my starter base. I was wasting coal and all that good stuff. So I researched and I found out that you can make electric furnace. So now that I have unlimited energy using the solar energy, I made myself 3 electric furnaces and I wired it all. Now I can heat or smelt as much as things as I possibly want, as much as I want without wasting any coal. Day 76, I went over to the quarry on the side of my base and I found out that it was overfilling really badly, so I had to expand it, but it was easy. I just added another chest. And also I realized I needed a good source of food. The only source of food that is decent that I have is bread and animals, which is not the most reliable. It is something we can definitely live off of at the moment, but I want to have some sort of automatic food farm inside my base. Now I didn't know why it took me 76 days to go to the nether, but I actually collected obsidian, and this was the first time for me to go to the nether in this world ever. Now, like I said, I don't know why it took me 76 days, but hey, we got there in the end. And as soon as I got to the nether, I forgot about hyperthermia. I was just collecting some materials. I didn't get the best nether spawn. There were some quirks and some basic things. I basically want to go to the nether to get glowstone for my torch, as you know, and other things that I can get like magma blocks. but hyperthermia was really not letting me do anything. I was burning, I could have died, so I just went back to my base and I just started research what I could do to cool myself down in the nether, and I found out that you can make jelly armor, which needed slime or cheese, which is actually found on the moon, so that is quite a neat thing. I haven't encountered any slime unfortunately, but I'll keep that in mind to make jelly armor to go to the nether. Day 77, I started to prepare for my second moon trip. I want to collect some moon rocks to use to build, I wanted to collect cheese, some ores, and also I wanted to explore a moon dungeon really badly. So I started to prepare, and also I enchanted another diamond pickaxe with the hope of getting soul touch, and what did you expect? I didn't get anything. I got unbreaking. That was literally all I got. I don't know why, but this version has really bad enchantments. Day 78, I packed everything, which really wasn't much. I didn't pack almost anything on the rocket this time, just everything in my inventory, and launched to the moon for the second time. When I landed on the moon, I just started collecting materials, didn't waste any time. Day 79, I continued my collecting spree for the materials on the moon, and I encountered myself with this new ore on the moon called cheese, which I collected because it was actually pretty rare. Day 80, I remember something quite bad. I forgot to bring an extra canister, so I thought I was going to be trapped on the moon and I couldn't get back to Earth, but later I found out that villagers actually traded extra canisters, or like partially filled canisters that you could use. So I just went on a little bit of a mining spree, got their currency or whatever, and then traded for a canister. From being unlucky to being lucky, on the same day, I found myself a moon dungeon, which was quite rare. I found it, I just looked into a hole and I found it, and I went down and we were going to be fighting a boss. I just explored it. There wasn't too much. I got some loot, normal mobs. It wasn't too difficult, but we were going to be facing this boss, and as soon as I entered the room, I saw this boss and I panicked. I tried to leave, and then the boss disappeared when I leave. It kind of despawns. The text on the bottom says don't leave the room. So I had an idea. I want to use a trick like how you use it with a wither. I mined some blocks on the side. I placed some blocks on top of me, and as you can see, the boss is quite tall, and usually what it does, it tries to grab you and it tries to throw you in lava. But now that I have placed blocks above my head, not under, above my head, the boss couldn't grab me, and this was basically a free kill. It couldn't attack me. I attacked it, killed it pretty easily, which I was feeling a bit smug about and quite proud of myself. And I got this key, which was used to open this chest later on the dungeon. This is just really cool. And in the chest, it was a bunch of normal loot inside the chest, but then there was something really exciting. I found a tier 2 rocket schematic, which meant I can make a tier 2 rocket now using my NASA workbench. This means I can go to Mars, I can go to different planets, and then continue this expansion, which I was super stoked about. And right after that, I went back to Earth. I didn't bring any extra oxygen to Moon because I thought it was going to be a short trip, and that was what had happened. I didn't have much oxygen left, so I just went back to Earth. And of course, to find the moon dungeon, I had to travel a lot of blocks, like thousands of blocks in the moon. I landed thousands of blocks away from spawn on Earth, and I didn't know what to do, but then I just traveled to the coordinates 000, which is spawn, and then on my way there, I had so much dramatic encounters. A creeper made my trip just so much more dramatic as it blew up my filters for water, which meant I don't have any clean water anymore, and also I had to make beds on the way, fight so many mobs, and it was quite a hassle. But in the end, I managed to make myself back to my base. And on day 81, I arrived back home and I unpacked everything, and this unpacking stage is quite a hassle. There's a lot of things that I need to unpack, and my base was looking quite messy. For the next few days, as you can see, my chests are not organized, which make this unpacking process again really a hassle. So what I decided to do was I decided to move all the things in my starter base outside everything into the little mini storage that I previously made in my base. Beside all my machinery, I decided to label all the chests as much as I possibly can, and I decided to sort everything in my possession, including all the cobblestone, all my starter base, into a little bit more of an organized state. For the category for the storage, I made myself stone, metals, building block, food, mob drop, junk, some space gears, and also moon, other planet items. It was not too good of a sorting system. I mean, it's good enough. It's better than what I had before, so I'm quite happy with that. But again, this is just something so that I have at least a base foundation of a storage system. Day 85, I started the day with some enchanting, and of course this version continues with the terrible enchantments. I mean, What is this? I thought when I enchanted I would get at least unbreaking or something additional on it, but of course there's nothing, so I just ignored it and I started to work on the tunnel, continue adding farms. I want to add, at least I started to plan out the entrances and also finish the flooring and continue to just do some, tedious things. The next morning I had a close encounter with death, but the water bucket saved me. I was trying to dig down and I forgot that there was the hole from the quarry, so thank God I managed to get out of that. And later on in the day I made an anvil, repaired my pickaxe. I needed mending because I keep repairing the pickaxes and I was wasting a lot of diamonds, so I'm not even sure if there's mending in this version, but that's something I want to get. On day 87, I decided to make myself an automatic wheat farm. I do have a wheat farm outside my base, but it is only manual, so I wanted to make a semi-automatic wheat farm in here. So I decided to clear out the floors and then added 2 layers of farmland, and also I marked out everything that I needed, like the water flow. So for the next few days, I was busy with that. I started to collect strings for dispensers and then continue with the farming operations, decorating the rooms and connecting all the redstone for the farm. And of course, on day 91, the redstone didn't work when I tried it out. It turned out I needed a repeater, so that was quite an easy solution, and also the water was short 1 block, so I had to fix that. It was quite annoying, but it was easy. For day 92 to 93, I went on one last mining trip for this 100 days. I needed some more iron, and along the way I collected some of the materials, so it did take some time. And also later on, when I came back to the surface, I started decorating my place a little bit more, and I realized that there wasn't a lot of furniture in this game. There wasn't a lot of furniture mods, so next time if we do another 100 days, we do need a furniture mod so that it's a little bit more better, because this was looking very dull. For day 94, I didn't do anything much. I did a full harvest with the farm and I just checked it out, and it turned out you got a quite decent amount. You get around over 2 stacks of wheat and a lot of seeds, so it was not so bad for one harvest. And for the rest of the days, I spent the day digging a little storage area beside the farm for my wheat storage. Day 95 was another day where I didn't do much. I went out to got myself some wood for the filters for the canteen. Because I was running out of filters, I decided to go to the redwood forest to get like 3 or 4 stacks of wood in one chop, which was amazing. Day 96 was a really exciting day because I used the schematic, the tier 2 rocket schematic from the moon dungeon, and I unlocked it using my NASA workbench. This means I can start collecting materials and actually making the tier 2 rocket, which could be used to go to the planets like Mars and also other solar system and more, which was really exciting. And also I started to research the things that I would need. It is pretty expensive. You need the meteor ore or something like that you get from the meteorite in the moon. I had quite a good amount, but I was gonna need a little bit more, so we do have to go to a moon trip in the future. Day 97, I continued to expand the tunnel, filling in the walls, the floors, and the ceiling, and also I added an underground layer that will continue to lead to more branches of things like farms and automatic fuel loaders, pumps, and all the good stuff. I didn't have much more space on the side, so I decided to go underground. Day 98, I continued the decorations, but also when I was making all the compressed metal, I was wasting a lot of coal. So I started researching how to make an electric compressor which would be connected to my solar panels, so I could constantly charge it without wasting any coal. And when I did research about it, it was quite expensive, but it was much faster and it was super sustainable. As you can see, it made double the plates and it was half the time, so it was super worth it. Day 99, I used another compressor that I had to make a second electric compressor, and I continued making progress on collecting materials and making things for the tier 2 rocket. And we were actually getting pretty close. We collected all the metals, all the fins, and even the cone and the engine, so we didn't need a lot left. We could definitely go to Mars really early on in the next 100 days. Day 100, the final day. I didn't do anything. I put on some shaders and enjoyed the space center, the scenery, the environment, everything, and took a look at it one last time for this 100 days. And that concludes our 100 days in this space-oriented world. And like I said in the beginning of this video, if this video hits 200 likes, I will continue to survive 200 days in this world, going to different planets like Mars, perhaps even use solar system. But definitely, I want to build a space station in the next 100 days. And also, we're definitely going to be adding more mods. We're going to add a furniture mod for sure, and also maybe even immersive engineering so that we can automate more things, get materials faster for even faster progression. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video nevertheless. If you did, please make sure you guys hit a like, and I will see you guys in the next video.